Yeah, welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We start today's proceedings with football. Earlier on Monday, senior Reggae Girlz head coach Hubert Bosby Jr. announced a 23-woman squad for this month's international friendly matches against Peru. The matches set for the 23rd and 26th in Lima will form a crucial part of Jamaica's preparations for the 2027 World Cup qualifiers, which begin October this year. Now, the most noticeable absentee is inspirational captain Khadija Shaw, who has been carefully managed by her WSL club, Manchester City, after recently returning from injury. Shaw played 60 minutes and scored twice in City's 4-0 win over Liverpool on Sunday. 2019 World Cup captain Connie Plummer has requested to miss the encounters as she'll undergo a minor procedure. Now, let's look at the full squad. Goalkeepers Rebecca Spencer, Alia Morgan and Leah Brooks. Defenders Alison Swaby, sister Chantal Swaby, Naya Cardoza, Siobhan Wilson, Jasmine Ferguson, Denisha Blackwood, Cameron Simmons and Naima Ingleton. Midfielders Atlanta Primus, Najeri Butts, Amelia Van Zanten, Drew Spence, Jade Bailey, Olifola Sade, Adam Alukan, Tiffany Cameron, Kayla McKenna, Chanel Buckley, Jodie Brown, Rihanna Blades and Risha Walker. All right, we're pleased to be joined in studio by coach Hubert Bosby Jr. to further discuss the makeup of this squad and all things Reggae Girlz. Of course, coach, it's a pleasure to have you on the SportsMax Zone. Certainly, I think the first time on set. So it's great to have you with us. How are you doing, first of all?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, let's start with the Khadija Shaw issue, because when you look on social media, that's what everyone is asking about. Why is she not in the squad? Of course, Jamaican fans got the opportunity to see her against South Africa, but you were telling us at the press conference today that it has a lot to do with managing her workload because she's just coming off injury.
Yeah, precisely. You know, yesterday was her first start of 2025. You know, she played 60 minutes, you can tell. Banging form. You know, the second goal was world class. You know, as a coaching staff, we were texting amongst each other saying how great we'd have that in Peru. But we're here to manage her. We're here to make sure that she's in the great condition that she needs to be in, and she's in great hands with Man City, and they're doing what they need to do to manage that asset. And we all know when she's in the squad for them, how important she is to the group. And also when she's not. So we just want to make sure that we do what's best interest for Bunny at this time. And obviously she missed, but you know, we'll get another player to come in and evaluate during this window.
Yeah, when situations like this happen, because obviously, like Khadija is extremely important to Manchester City, she's also important to the Jamaican setup, and Manchester City, any team, City would understand that in the same way that you would understand her importance to them. What are the conversations like in arriving at a decision like this? How difficult is it?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult, but it's always done with the best interest in the player in mind. And from a medical perspective, it's great because our medical team, which is the best in the region, they correspond with them, and decisions are made and passed on to us. Discussions or communication between myself and Bunny or the players, just to make sure that she knows that she has our full support. We understand that we need to manage at this particular time what she's going through with the playing coming back from injury. Because as I alluded to, if she's out for a club, then she's out for country. Yeah. And so we have to really make sure that, our eye on the prize is really what happens further down the road. And with a lot of the different issues now with load management across the board, men and women, you can see it each and every week. Players are breaking down through injuries or what are deemed overuse injuries. It's really important that we manage our players accordingly.
Yeah, so the communication channels are open then between the Jamaica Federation, the Jamaican setup, and the City setup.
Yeah, we pride ourselves in that. Obviously we've, even early this year, I went over and met with some of the clubs themselves to make sure that we know that the Federation is doing their best and we are doing the best we can to manage our players. And so that's something that I was adamant about to ensure that they know when they come into our hands that we're sending them back, in some cases even better than they sent them to us,
All right, let's expand the conversation a little bit now. So Khadija Shaw is out, and we've dealt with that. Konya Plummer is also out, by the way.
Yeah.
She won't be in. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, she reached out and said she's going through, I mean, in the last camp, she was carrying something, and she's, you know, all players play through injuries, a little bit of a knock, or never 100% healthy at this time of year. But her and the club had a conversation that said, hey, listen, you know, if you can use this week to kind of get a minor procedure done, let's look to do so that, again, you can be healthy for the club and for us as well. And yeah, she's never going to turn down an opportunity to want to play for her country. But in lieu of everything that's going on, we want all our players healthy. And so hopefully we'll get her back next window.
Yeah, very important question here, because a number of the Reggae Girlz players, certainly those senior players who were part of the last World Cup squad, some of them, can I use the term up in age? There is that, clearly a lot of experience, but as you get older, it's not as easy to handle the rigors of international football and playing at the highest level. We see a few of them coming back for their club teams, especially in the WSL, Shaw included. At this stage, are you any at all concerned about the number of injuries that are kind of popping up with a lot of your senior players?
Well, I mean, firstly, you know, father time, mother time is undefeated, right? So at the end of the day, you know, that's part of it. But again, you know, with our players now, most of them are in really good environments where we're getting data and sharing data in terms of what's happening with the players. So we have a really good read on that that gives us the information we need. Sometimes, as we know, it doesn't always equate to everyone being healthy, even when the data suggests they are. But, you know, what's important for us is we keep on managing that. We keep on observing that and making sure that the players are coming in a healthy manner. You know, on the other side, you know, when some of these players are out, one of the things that we are able to do, especially with a lot of players in our pool, a lot of them are in the college ranks. So they're not playing in professional academies per se.
Right.
So they're during the college season, the colleges aren't obligated to release them by FIFA. Yeah. And so we have a good relation with those colleges. They're playing for championships. They don't want to release the players for what they deem friendly matches. Yeah. We want to establish and ensure that these great relationships continue, not just for these players, but for the ones in Jamaica that we want to, at some point, also put into those programs. So communication is had, but always we don't get them. So now it's a really good opportunity for some of these players to come into the mix, which obviously we're looking forward to at this time to ensure that this pool continues to grow, but also ensures that this pool remains really, really competitive.
Yeah, and Coach, it's not your first stint with the ladies. You've been a part of the setup and a part of the successful aspect of the Reggae Girlz, you know. What are some of the things you hope to achieve now that, because we didn't get to talk to you since,
yes,
you know, since you got this role, we finally have you in studio. But what are some of the things that you're looking forward to achieve, maybe when you look back at the end of your tenure, as well as in these immediate friendlies that are coming up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the things that drives me on a day-to-day basis and the staff and what I'm really motivated to is what this looks like in 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, again, you know, we all know the importance of having those succession plans, and it's something that we work diligently at as a staff, as a federation, a collective, to know that we are matriculating players through the system. And so for us is to ensure that we are going to back-to-back World Cups. There are challenges when you look at the number of games we've played, one of the games or games not played, and trying to get some of these younger players up to international standard, trying to bridge that gap, which is just something that we've looked at. It's what's going to motivate, you know, the next generation, not just in Jamaica but abroad as well, you know.
Yeah, and when you say, you mentioned what would this look like in the next 10 years, I instantly remember the point when I interviewed former Reggae Boys coach Mahal Grimson, and one of the things the coach that came from Iceland was very, very adamant about is like recording on a database information about these players, what they're good at and all of that. Because coach was saying to me that when he leaves the Reggae Boy setup, he wanted if another coach came in, they would have access to that information and it would not have been like they were starting from scratch.
Right.
Is that something that you would consider?
Oh, we have it in place.
Okay.
Each week we have a database for our coaches and each coach is kind of responsible for a particular area that they need to update each and every week of all our players who are playing and provide notes on. And each and every week we have a conversation, a weekly call that says, hey, this is what's going on. This is who's played where. And all the players are in our system, which is great. I mean, we currently have identified over 130 players, including our U20s and 17s within our program. They all can't be selected, but they're in a really good age bracket where we can make sure that they are being monitored. And to your point, at some point when this is handed over, that someone has a really good grasp of what's coming next.
Yeah, and just to go back to the friendlies, because that's going to be in our face soon. The girls are getting ready for that. From the time that you've been spending with the girls, what are some areas you hope to, target during those friendlies? Yeah,
again, another good question. I think the backbone and the success that happened in Australia and was where we were resolute, difficult to defend, and we want to ensure that that's a big part of what we do. But as we know, the game continues to evolve, and we look around and realize that, even though 37% of the matches are won with teams who don't have possession, it's still a high percentage of teams are winning when you do have possession of the ball. And so we're trying to be a little bit more dominant. We're trying to play a little bit more on the front foot, being able to possess the ball, being technical, making better decisions, and ultimately looking to be playing with a little bit more aggression in our play. Because ultimately, when you go and place in some of these games, again, hostile environment in Peru. If we're the provocateur and we're taking it to them, that only doesn't. It also eliminates the crowd from getting into the game as well, and it becomes very uneasy. So if we can try to dominate as much as possession as we can, it's something that we're really trying to work on as a program, and we've tried to really work on embedding some of those things in our principles of play.
Yeah. Coach, you just referenced your database on your U17s and U20s. Next week, you have the CONCACAF U20 qualifiers going on for the women. Antigua and Barbuda, Dominican Republic, Trinidad and Tobago, and Nicaragua will be the host countries there. How much would you be looking at the under-20s with an eye of having some of them transition into your senior program?
Yeah, no, we work closely with the U20s and U17 coach. My role is to help them when needed. So when we had the camp in Montego Bay, they were invited in to see how we work, see in terms of our principles that it's uniformed, how we deliver information to players, how players receive information, the totality of all of it, medical staff, science staffs, and how that's really important in that verticality that we spoke about. And so to see these players now and to understand that a lot of these players could be even called upon in the next window. The local player Destiny Powell has been in with our camp. She's obviously won't be with because she's with them. Is a great prospect, and so we're really, keeping an eye on those players to ensure that when called on, there's uniformity and again, as I said, alignment in the things that we're doing. So yeah, we work closely with understanding that player pool, me trying to support the best I can, the technical director as well as the coaching staff to make sure that they get as much support as they can going into those games.
Yeah, Coach, you've been steeped in the U.S. landscape of women's football, which is probably the best in the world, given the USA's perennial dominance of world football. How far is the Caribbean behind from an infrastructure standpoint behind the U.S.? I know it's very, very far, but if you could just put into words, how much work we have to do in the Caribbean to ensure that our programs for girls, because it starts there, and the women, can begin to gain some ground globally.
Yeah, it all starts with the grassroots level. Our people investing in federations and clubs investing in the grassroots level. because that's where it comes in. And some of the countries are, population-wise, they just simply don't have the population.
Critical mass is an
critical
issue.
mass, and it's simple. So they're never going to be on necessarily the stage, dare I say, but we can be open. But I think there's a role that those federations and those clubs play in those countries to ensure that there's opportunities for young women to play football, because not just through football and going to the World Cup and the world stage, there's also opportunities to become coaches and administrators and referees and sports scientists. There's other opportunities why this game is really important to grow and to invest in. And I think it's really important for those federations to invest in it. But there is a gap, and until that investment is shown, that gap might even widen, because obviously, as you know now, the U.S. has gotten a few, they've gotten their wake-up call, and the world is catching up. The world has caught up, and so their investment has gone, twofold. Yeah, it's
sky high.
Sky high again, and so which means it's kind of a little bit of the race game again. Everyone's investing just to kind of keep up where it should be, and that doesn't even include the massive population numbers and registration numbers that they have. So yeah, it's about the investment that needs to happen at the grassroots level.
Yeah, the Jamaicans love the entire Reggae Girlz squad, Coach Busby, but that there will be something special in the hearts of Jamaican fans for the homegrown talent.
Absolutely.
Players like Bunny Shaw and Jody Brown, who learnt right here in Jamaica. Given the fact that the region, the infrastructure of football in Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean is so far behind, how impressive is it, in your opinion, that Jamaica could have produced a Bunny Shaw and a Jody Brown?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, and I think that is part of what we were talking about before is, we have to ensure that we're developing players by design and not by default, because the reality is, I've said all along, Bunny's one of one. And I think we will appreciate it when all's said and done, when she's not playing anymore, and hopefully that's not anytime soon, by the way. But at the end of the day, what she's been able to accomplish, regardless, I think people really will appreciate it, like typically when it's done. But, to be Ballon d'Or and to be in the top 5 in voting, I mean, that is unheard of for Jamaica. So, and all the other players have come through, as you alluded to. I mean, Denisha as well is doing so. I mean, she's pulling up trees in Mexico, and Jody's doing well, and Trudy's finding her way back in Spain as well. And just to think about, 10 years ago, you'd never have thought of our players playing, players coming through here playing at those clubs. It's unheard of. So there's a responsibility that we have to ensure that we are putting programs in place. I think obviously the TDS that is starting now is a great opportunity, in terms of the young players, 11 to 14, that we're looking to do. But at some times, I think, a lot of that is put on the federation, but as we all know, clubs develop players. The structure and the parameters and the restrictions in terms of the processes that go into allowing for clubs to be clubs are handled by the federation, the standards. But clubs really need to start investing in the women's game, and then they'll reap the benefits, because now you speak from a financial term, you can get compensation by selling players and reinvesting back in your club, and maybe that's where some of it starts. And I had a really good, I won't mention name because maybe you didn't want to, but I had a really good conversation with one of the chairmen of one of the teams in the Women's Premier League, and just said, just commended him for just the idea of him investing and doing what they do and encouraging him that, it'll pay off in the long run. And maybe he's not involved, or I'm not involved anymore, but we'll all be able to see all that, the harvest, the fruits of those labors down the line,
Yeah. I know I heard you 2 or 3 minutes ago paying glowing tributes to Bunny Shaw and so on. I don't want to get you tied up in the politics of Jamaica's sports awards, but Bunny Shaw was not nominated in the list of Sportswoman of the Year for 2024. How shocking was that for you?
Not nominated, Not even a name.
Mean, I mean, like you said, we'll stay out of that. But yeah, the reality is it's shocking. And the biggest sport in the world, and at the biggest level, and for that not to be even a nomination is, yeah, it's disappointing to say the least. But again, maybe it's a lesson to be learned. Maybe now that, I don't know what the criteria that goes into making that selection, but maybe that changes down the line.
Yeah. The organizers accepted that based on the criteria set out.
Right.
It gave them room not to nominate her, although that was questionable in itself. But they are reviewing the criteria now. Yes.
Makes sense.
I'll say as well, based on the criteria, that there was room to nominate her as well, and that, especially given the field for 2024, she should have been nominated. Shania Hales, great acquisition for Jamaica, 25-year-old forward, plays for Newcastle United. And with Bonnie Shaw out, I thought, well, she's definitely going to be in. What's happening there?
Yeah, you and me both. But again, it's just, it's a situation where she gave me a call and said, look, the situation is, she kind of plays the 11 on the wing. In the last few games, she's playing on the 9, and she's been in, again, similar, terrific form. But Newcastle, has a string of injuries. And she's been playing a lot of minutes, and they're, I think, 6 points out of getting promotion to the Super League. So again, the pressure's on. It's a big trip, and the club is saying, well, we support you, and they have been, to be honest. But we prefer, obviously, with you paying the amount of minutes that you're playing.
Yeah.
Again, a load management situation.
Yeah.
And really, when you are playing that, and you have to factor in the flight, you have to factor everything else. I would love to bring her in. And truth be told, I probably could have said, hey, come in, play. But again, she goes back, she plays another, set of matches with us, and then goes back, and then, obviously injuries are part of it where something happens. It's just not in the best interest of her and Newcastle. And again, I reiterate, it's important for us now with the World Cup qualifiers on the horizon to really also be conscious of what we're doing with the players as well. Because if they're not healthy for their clubs, they can't be healthy for us.
Yeah, and I'm going to steal a quick minute here before we have to go. How close are you, because you have so many players to look at, by the way, how close are you to determining, at least in your own mind, what your World Cup qualifying setup will look like, both from a player standpoint, but also from a system standpoint?
The system is continuing in terms of, for us, we speak in terms of principles and our methodology, how we train and how we want to go out to play, because the systems are embedded in your principles for us. So regardless of what it is, we're flexible in the things that we do, and we talk about a lot in and out of possession and different things that we want to do, and also based on the opposition, because you got to play a team as well, and we got to set up and do different things. But I think from that perspective, we're well on our way. Yeah. We'll be able to see some of that in place in Montego Bay, and looking to do that again now. As far as players concerned, we're getting closer. We're getting closer because I think the players give us information that we need when we have them in our camps in these games. But I also too in terms of the consistency that we're getting and seeing them at their clubs as well. And so all we can say is continue to make my decision very difficult. Yeah. We love having those difficult headaches. That means the pool is growing and improving. And again, that's when we talk about when we're ready to play that, obviously that first match in those qualifiers, we'll be close to that peak form. We won't be peaking yet, but we want to be close to that form where the players are really raring to go, and we would have kind of come through with the best players that sort of work together,
Yeah. My producer is going to kill me, but I'm going to steal 30 more seconds because I want to get an understanding in terms of the recruitment process. Is it weird to say recruitment when you're talking about international football? But in terms of the recruitment process, is it a case where you go out and go after very specific players, or are players writing the federation or reaching out to you and saying, we're interested in representing the black, green and gold? How is it working?
It's unbelievable. The amount I could probably show in my phone, the parents reaching out from all parts of the globe, reaching out to try to be a reggae girl, and ladies at the office when I walk in, saying that they've got emails and phone numbers and people. So it's a great thing, and I say that obviously with great due respect. I mean, those players are there, which is great because a lot of those players now, they're not past 20. They're younger players who are reaching out and declaring early on, and they're at big clubs across the world as well, which is phenomenal, which is absolutely phenomenal. And that's a testament to all the hard work that has gone in before, and testament to the role models that they see each and every week on the TV. In terms of our recruitment, we are specific in the players that we need to do because we do have a really good pool of players, and I want to make the ones that we have better as well. But yeah, there are specific positions that we need to strengthen or to have depth in. So those players in those areas are being dressed as we speak.
Well, Coach Hubert Busby Jr., I want to keep my job at the end of this. Thank you so much for joining us on the SportsMax Zone. It's been a pleasure, and we wish you all the best with the Reggae Girlz going forward, the friendly matches coming up, and World Cup qualifying that starts in October. All right, we've got to go to a break on the SportsMax Zone. We'll be back with so much more, including a look at the UEFA Champions League. We're previewing the playoff knockout second leg matches, and La Liga. Barcelona, are they top of the table? Find out. We'll be back.